Good evening, everybody. The July 25th, 2023 Hibbing Public Commission meeting is called to order. All commissioners are present with the exception of Commissioner Garrity and Commissioner Andrea. Do we have any adds or deletes? Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. I'd like to remove item 5I, the meeting date change from the consent agenda, and add under new business a new 9A for HPU asset management discussion. We'll just say something briefly on that before going into the closed session, which would then be renamed 9B.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Any other adds or deletes? Not, we'll move to citizens forum, and we haven't been presented with anything, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 5A, approve invoices greater than 1,000 and approve the bills and ACH transfers dated July 24th to July 21st, 2023. Item 5B, approve the payroll paid and overtime report for the June 29th and June 13th, 2023 pay dates. Item 5C, ratify purchase of streetlight components from Wesco Receivables Corporation in the amount of $29,862. Item 5D, approve change order number 01 for Minnesota Street and 8th Avenue in the amount of $16,404. Item 5E, approve resolution 18-23, authorization to make application to and accept funds from natural gas distribution infrastructure safety and modernization grant program. Item 5S, approve resolution 19-23, authorization to make application to and accept funds from the IRRB Community Infrastructure Grant Program. Item 5G, accept Hibbing Public Utilities Travel Expenditure Matrix for from February 20, 2023 to August 25th, 2023. Item 5H, approve request for contribution from Mines and Pines Revisited, $250 for Art and Music Festival. And that would be it. That would be the wish of the commission.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babish to approve the consent agenda items 5A through 5H. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Chair, could you go back and address the minutes under number 3 on the agenda? No? Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
That's right.
I will back up. I skipped right over. I was in such a hurry. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 27, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
I'll support that. We have a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Hart to approve the minutes of the June 27th meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6A, review and approve interim June financials. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. A draft of the financials for the half a year ending June 30th was included with the packet. Baker Tilly and our finance team continues to work on that since the draft ones were shared with you, and we have Russ Hissam here present to go over those financials for you. Russ, can you hear us?
Now I can hear you. I couldn't before.
Okay. Great. We can see you, and you look great. So.
You're very kind. The wonder of cameras.
Good. So, as I just mentioned with the commission, we have the draft financials for the period ending June 30th that was shared with them last Thursday evening, and very happy to have any commentary you'd like to share on that.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. The financials from last Thursday are not quite complete yet. There's some adjustments that are needed to finalize them, but all of the accounts, for the most part, have been reconciled to the detail for the year. I would say that expenses have been reclassified in the capital projects, so the revenues and expenses are accurate of where the district is, or where the utilities are for the year to date. And you'll see, some improvement in the results compared to last year. So I think implementation of the PPA and also continuation of the PGA have helped the financial results as well. So as time goes by and you got have a comparable to last year's, you'll see, more comparative results as the year continues. Sorry, it was a little accounting double talk, but any questions you might have on those, I'd be happy to answer.
Can you just speak to, Russ, briefly the items that are still pending final reconciliation?
Yeah, every month in this process is getting better, but there is some items that are wire transferred from the utilities accounts to various payees for withholding accounts, and like the Minnesota Power Bill and others as well. And there's a lag in recording those in the general ledger. So we're working with Whitney, the accounting coordinator, on trying to develop a process where that gets done more timely. So those items have not been recorded, and already we have a schedule set up for August on doing the July statements to get the bank reconciliations done sooner and get some of that lag out of the process as well. It's going to take some time. I think it's been something that's been ongoing for the last couple of years, but it will, eventually it'll be figured out and things will be recorded a little more timely. Any questions, folks?
We have no questions. Everything else to add, Luke? We good?
No, I don't think so. I appreciate the work Baker Tilly is continuing to do on this, and the work our finance staff is doing to work through the issues in the system that we have. And so as we finalize these for the month of June, we'll update all of you commissioners with it and move forward there. But as Russ said, the majority of the income statement should be in decent shape. It's just some of the cash accounts that need a little further reconciliation on the balance sheet. So, there we go.
Okay, thank you. What will be the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve the financials.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babbage to approve the interim June financials. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Garrett.
I guess I would advise, just accept them. There's no way to prove these are right. I mean, and I'm sure, I heard part of the discussion, but I wouldn't put my name on them.
Thank you, Commissioner Garrity. Will, any other discussion?
I mean, I could change the wording of my motion to accept them and place them on file. How about that?
Well, we did approve them, just
Yeah.
interim. Right. Any further discussion? No. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6B, Hibbing Renewable Energy Center, budget updates and capital improvements for the 2023 summer outage. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. This is to introduce item 6B, in addition to the items that follow it related to the work at the Hibbing Renewable Energy Center throughout the summer. As Mr. Plumbaum has reported in our budget memo here at the beginning of our total plant budget for capital work for this season of $8.4 million, the current forecast, we have contracts in file for the amount of $4 million, with $2.4 million in change already completed. And was very happy to inaugurate the new ESP and economizer on the wood boiler just yesterday with members of the staff and the commissioner from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, whose fines were a driving factor in the prioritization of rebuilding the ESP. And so with this newly rebuilt ESP and economizer work, we have the tools to take care of our heating requirements and power gen requirements through the wood boiler for many more generations to come. So I wanted to thank the commissioners for investing in that and for making those improvements. There's a number of items related to that in the packet. Chair, should we just take them as we go?
Okay. All right, we'll move on to Item 6C, approve Alliance Technical Group to complete 2023 stack testing requirements in amount of $51,450.
Thank you, Chair Hart. This is to do our annual compliance testing with Alliance Technical Group. And you'll notice that the cost of $51,450 was lower than we paid last year. We paid about $75,000 for the same group to test last year, and that was due to the bag house testing, which we do not have to test this time around. So this is a reduced cost. And Council Attorney Andrew Borland has indicated a couple of changes to make in the contract for this due to the company's restructuring and new corporate headquarters in Alabama. We still want to have any disputes resolved in the state of Minnesota. So I have some work to get back to folks before we sign the scope of work, but the dollar amount I'm requesting approval for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. I'll make a motion to approve the stack testing to
Support.
Alliance Technical Group in the amount of $51,450. Do I have support?
Support.
Motion by Chair Hart, support by Commissioner Garrity, to approve Alliance Technical Group for stack testing, the amount of $51,450. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Move on to item number 6D. Approve Heckemovich Mechanical to replace steam traps on turbine 6 in the amount of $27,429. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you, Chair Hart. As the Commissioner recalls, Heckemovich Mechanical had won the annual bids and quotes for work in the power plant this year, and this dollar amount exceeds my ability to approve. This is a required trap replacement for turbine 6.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Is there support?
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Babbage to approve Heckemovich Mechanical to replace the steam traps in turbine 6, the amount of $27,429. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, 6E, approve Hunt Electric for installation of turbine 5 controls and boiler 2 modernization projects in the respective amounts of $39,450 and $120,000. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. As you recall, Hunt Electric has the contract for electrical work in the power plant, and these projects exceed my ability to approve. Both amounts have been budgeted in our annual capital budget plan for the power plant. The amount for turbine 505 controls and overstreet trip protection is estimated to be $39,450, and for the boiler 2 controls project, final wiring, we have a requested amount of $120,000, and we expect it to be closer to $80,000. We just want to make sure that there's enough room.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll support that. We have a motion by Commissioner Babbage, support by Chair Hart, to approve the electrical upgrades to Hunt Electric in the amount of $39,450 and the other project of $120,000. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item 6F, approve Bolton and Menk to complete plans and specifications and to order advertisement for public bid 2023-21 Southview Water Supply Protection Project. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners, if you recall, we've had a series of 2 breaks on the 24-inch line that feed the Southview apartments right along Highway 169. And we do know that the 24-inch and 30-inch line along 169 has been an issue, and it's been in our capital improvement plan. We're working with staff to prioritize that for the next round of capital planning for next year. That said, what we found out through the series of leaks is that there is not an adequate redundant water supply to Southview apartments. which causes any issue on this 24-inch, which we've had 2 in the last month, to, basically have the whole complex without any water, which is, certainly not up to standard utility practices. So I want to go out this fall, if commission approving notwithstanding, to go out for this small project to just ensure that Southview has a redundant water supply. I believe it's about 400 feet, 200 yards of water line that would allow us to hook up to the feed for Southview Apartments and provide them a redundant water supply. And while it won't fix the issue on the 24-inch line, it will ensure that when we do have the large capital project to replace the 24-inch line, that we can still serve them. Because as of right now, that's the only way in to serve approximately 300 residents of Hibbing and customers of the public utilities with water. So this small add is probably long overdue and something that I'd recommend the commission go out for bids for yet this fall.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What's the estimated cost from Bolton and Mank?
Ms. Dickinson, would you mind approaching the podium and speaking to the project?
A preliminary estimate for the work that's proposed tonight before the commission would be up to $200,000. They give us a larger range with, far less, but to be on the safe side, a comfortable number I think that I'd be willing to share is up to $200,000. And we can always bid the project and, of course, reject those bids and decide to defer the work to next year's capital improvements. But it seems like due to the critical nature of the outages that have happened over the last month, we had 2 multi-day outages for those residents. And we are installing a new valve actually next week as well that will help isolate for future events if they occur on that 24-inch line. But again, this is the redundant feed to ensure that there's not going to be multi-day outages for the residents at Southview.
Is there a breakdown of the engineering and then the construction costs in that 200,000?
We haven't received an estimate on the professional services that could be provided along with the project, but just utilizing high-level estimates, it was going to be in that range of up to $200,000 total.
If we do this project, can that 30-inch line be replaced without Southview being shut down with water?
That's correct.
That's correct. Any idea why this line was never connected in the past?
I've heard very brief synopsis of why that may or may not have happened, but unfortunately, that was prior to me being here, so I don't have a full response to that at this time.
Thank you.
And if I could, Chair, we've had brief conversations with city staff about building codes too, and at no point should a multi-unit building be allowed to be constructed without redundant supplies of water. So, I think we want to be a little bit more unified with the city and how we, make sure we're providing utility services, and particularly with new construction, making sure we're providing the utility best practices as a kind of bare minimum service standard for new construction.
It's the long-term plan.
The long-term plan is to have this redundant feed, which is needed anyway, and then also to address the 24-inch and 30-inch line situation completely.
So is there any reason to just do that all at once?
I think we have an issue of time. Well, first of all, in sequence, in order for us to do the 30-inch and 24-inch, Southview wouldn't have water. So the first step is to have the redundant supply in, which we can do yet this year before frost up, I believe. The other project is much more bigger in scope and require a few months of engineering, bidding, and then looking at next year at the soonest for construction.
There's also multiple options for replacement or improvements to that line. If we had a little more time, the redundant feed seems essential. Just again, we're trying to avoid the outage. The impacts are huge. But if we have more time to analyze with our engineering support as well, you could do a full replacement to that line, or you could have it lined as well. But again, it's weighing out. The cost difference was, again, very high level estimates were closer to $1 million for reconstruct in that area, for that water main. So it would, I mean, essentially it would be, you know, I've been meeting with our foreman and with staff, looking at what our potential 2024 projects would be for capital improvements. And we did have on our water capital improvement plan to be looking at 3rd Avenue East, and there's potential, depending on what we find out after that valve is placed and have time to further analyze with our engineering support, that would prioritize our 2024 capital improvement.
That answered.
Yeah, my concern is just going in the ground twice, mobilizing twice, all of the above. I get it, there's a timeline issue, but to
Yeah.
me, I mean, we're gonna pay $200,000 so we can do a $1.5 million project later, or
Sure.
higher, probably higher.
Sure. Yeah, and I hear you. I also think this $200,000 one is going to be,
Right.
you know, so I also see it as kind of adding additional redundancy and integrity to our system, and giving us a little bit more time to ensure that the planning is right for the placement of the 30-inch. I mean, we've had some conversations. Does Hibbing need a 30-inch water supply line in that area? You know, well, we got it. I mean, so I think there's going to be some more questions to be had for the design team as we get through to the permanent solution. And also looking at the capital budget we have, you know, I am expecting, I'm hoping, I guess I should say, that the other projects come in under budget, so we could still be about where we are with yet this fall. So, and I'll just remind the commission that we've probably spent about $100,000 on the 2 repairs.
Likely
Total.
over that.
So, you know, I think, you know, we're at the point where,
Today.
you
On
know,
the 2
the repairs are adding up and costly, and if we can respond in a less urgent situation to breaks along the 30-inch in the future, because Southview has a redundant supply, that will allow us to save costs without the big project.
I have a potentially dumb question. Would it make sense if we do this project to just run the water off that line only until we have a plan for the other one? So then we don't have to spend $100,000 on a repair and then go back off the redundant one, back onto the main one, and keep having it break and waste water and time?
Yeah, that's one of the items that we're looking at with the engineers, as well as what the future of that line looks like. The 2 water main breaks, the first one on the, I believe it was June 24th, and then this one just 3 weeks later, they were about 75 feet apart. So my fear is, right, the condition of the entirety of that line, and what does that look like?
So would that make sense to just not?
There's potential that it would be isolated, and we may not for a period of time, or it may be relocated entirely. So, but yeah, it's just, yeah, looking at the system maps, there are multiple options, and those are the things that I think we have to be really thoughtful of with the higher volume line. But again, totally separate is just this redundant feed is an easy task to take care of. I mean, knock on wood, with the close proximity of the 2 water main breaks and how close they were together, is there something else going on in the area or with that pipe in general that we could experience the same thing next week, you know? So redundant feed seems like an easy way to take care of this, to ensure that we don't have the impacts that we've had recently to Southview apartments, and we can fully analyze what the future of that larger line looks like.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Garrity.
Yeah, Mr. Peterson, you know, we had an extensive discussion about the water needs and water safety, you know, at a prior meeting. And are you sure this engineering firm is the one that we should be using to go forward with? I mean, how do they miss, you know, the fact that you got a line going to 300 people and the risk that's involved? And I'd swear this broke down. We had a leak there a couple of weeks or a couple of years ago. And I guess I don't have the list of the top 10 projects, but I don't think that it was in there. I mean, I think their next item was the water line going out past Walmart. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
something doesn't make sense here. I brought up the point and I argued about the importance of water availability to the hydrants, never even thinking that they bypassed, you know, an apartment complex with 300 people.
I do remember you talking about that, Commissioner Garrity, and I think that was a very good foresight on your part to make sure that we're looking at all aspects of safety with our water projects. You know, that is a good point too to bring up to our current water engineer to make sure that, you know, we don't have any other obvious, you know, quick wins on the supply, because I agree that missing simple 200-yard piece of pipe was a very obvious solution to some reliability. I also note that the 30-inch water line is, you know, has been a priority on the capital improvement plan. We just didn't know if that was a 2023 item or a 2024 item or a 2025 item. I think this year's experience will move that up in the queue for that permanent fix. And, you know, what we do need to do is we have talked about different options, but properly analyze it. And, you know, I mean, I think we do need to talk to our engineering firm to make sure that we're not missing any other major quick wins like this redundancy to Southview. But with the information we have, you know, I think that 30 inches is moving up the queue. And I think there's an item on hydrants next on the list.
I could add one other thing to that as well to respond to Commissioner Garrity is I did have a very brief conversation with the water engineers regarding our water capital improvement plan and when do you fit in redundant feeds to that, because there was the 30-inch line, I believe, over by O'Rourke Road that was identified and included, but had more so to do with a water main break that had happened maybe last year or the year prior. And ultimately, there's another level of the water capital improvement plan that could be implemented that is more so asset management. When there hasn't been identified issues on your lines that you want to prioritize, it's additional planning we can and will do, but the initial stages of planning for that water capital improvement plan, things like fire suppression and water main breaks that were already identified in the system were key things that were addressed initially, but we are analyzing as we go, and as recently as this month, I've spent a lot of time analyzing that with staff, and we do plan on following up with our water engineers as well to make sure that these items are also included in that planning.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Peterson, we spent a lot of money on this engineering firm with the intent that we were getting the best product coming out. Again, I can't get past the fact this should have been something that was looked at and said, hey, you should put this in your top 10. And we could have easily put this into our project for this year. And, you know, that argument that we had at that meeting got them to work on water hydrants, you know, where there's high density of people. And never even thought that I have to ask an engineer, a professional engineering firm that, you know, is there a specific area that we're missing, you know, and so I guess I just wonder, again, I'll ask the question, is there a different firm that we should hire that could do this quickly for us so that we get the closed loop in this year? And they're monkeying around with, you know, wet soil and trying to go put lines through storm sewers. And, you know, I'm less than 100% satisfied with this group. And so did you even look for anybody else?
You know, we have had conversations with the other engineering firms this year. For right now, you know, just out of cost of execution and getting something out the door yet this fall, I don't see anybody having as much quick to market analysis for us on this particular issue, but that is something that we should continue to evaluate.
Yeah, I would think that they'd probably want to do this for free just because, you know, they missed it, but,
I would agree, and I also agree, Mrs. Dickinson, that we should bring that up to get that for free from Bolton and Mink. This was an obvious error on their part.
We certainly can run it by them.
but seriously, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
it is guaranteed this work will be, the closed loop will be put in this year.
Yes.
I mean, not in November, you know, I mean,
I'm hoping for October, but I mean, we got to get the first step is to get the approval to go out for bid, which, I mean, I'd hope to get out by the end of the month. And, you know, we are working with a lot of water contractors right now. They know us, we know them. You know, we'll advertise it and get the best bid. But I think with the amount of seriousness of the work we have going on, in light of also our RRRB grant request that we put in for $500,000, which covers all projects for water this year, which is very good foresight on Ms. Dickinson's part, to not keep us just to one or two of the projects we have going on. But with all those things coming in, I'm very hopeful we'll have it in before at least complete frost over, if not for snowfly.
I guess I just want to point out, the contract we signed with them didn't guarantee that they get every water project in the future.
That's correct, it did not.
You know, so
We have
it's
full
it's just
choice.
something that the commission can look at as to how satisfied they are with how things go this year. And, you know, that those that'll still be here, but it's just having to encourage them to get the hydrant map and having them, you know, having to get that bid out. It's kind of frustrating, let alone, you know, I just can't even imagine people, 300 people having, and there wasn't all 300 people, but that when the second break happened, they had to go take showers at the Memorial Building. I mean, that's, I can't believe this place isn't full of angry customers. You know, they probably just don't know the meeting is tonight. Can I invite them to?
Yeah,
next meeting?
absolutely. And also, I will give credit to that. You know, it was a terrible situation, and our water crew did remarkably well. And I think the communication that our staff, led by Ms. Dickinson, had with the management company and the leaders over at Southview Apartments was very good. So it certainly could have been better with not having had a break at all. But with the response that we did have, including coordination with the city, with the Memorial Building showers, which was a resident reaching out to Councilor Faso and Mayor Hyduk, and I think that also expedited the response to open up the showers over at the Memorial Building. You know, in a perfect world, we never have a water break. In a perfect world, if water break happens, you have redundant water supply. We're getting there. We have, you know, 60 years of deferred maintenance on our water utility, and we're catching up with that right now. And I think the important part is to get this in before snow flies.
Okay. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll support that. Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Chair Hart to move ahead with the advertisement for public bid 2023-21 Southview Water Supply Protection Project. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
it is a safety project, so even though I'm against it, you know, I'll be voting for it. That's the critical point, but
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrity. Any further discussion?
Could I make a comment too?
Mr. Babich?
I do agree with Commissioner Garrity. I think that because of the speed that this needs to go through, we have to approve this tonight, but I do feel that, you know, Bolton Mink needs to be held actions.
Thank you,
Duly
Mr.
noted.
Babich. Any other discussion? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, move on to item 6G, approve plans and specification and order to advertise for public bid 2023-22, the 2023 hydrant repairs project. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Relating to Commissioner Garrity's priority for the water hydrants this year and ongoing discussions with the city about prioritization that the fire department has about hydrants, Attached before you is a kind of a summation of the 207 hydrants that we see do not work, and the overall estimate of around $16,000 to $20,000, depending on which hydrant it is, for the replacement of the hydrants as well. The prioritization work that we discussed first at the May work session of the commission was partnered between Ms. Dickinson and Chief Jankla from the fire department. And over the last few months, they have been able to coordinate the number 13, the 13 top priority fire hydrants. That was confirmed both with the fire department and with city staff and engineering firms. And the locations that are priorities are listed in the map behind. And we seek to go out for bid for this. And under, we have to, I think, in all honesty, do these this year and look for funding for them while we also do them. We don't want to miss another year of not replacing these fire hydrants. If you recall, we have requests for $2 million for hydrant money from the Army Corps of Engineers, in addition to other sources of funding within the state of Minnesota. So, and also conversations with the city of Hibbing. So I think it's very important that we get these out to bid so we can get the true costs and then determine the proper funding source as we build the project. So with that in mind, I would request commission approval for going out to bid for the 13 fire hydrants yet this year.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. You say proper funding source. What are you referring to?
Proper meaning optimal. As of right now, I think the priority is to get things in before fall. We just need to go out and get them bid. I do not know if the federal legislature, we will have the $2 million approved yet from the direct earmark process, given the nature of politics in Washington, but we are on the list for the Army Corps. So the Army Corps is usually funded at some extent through that, so we should be getting some money. It is the commission's choice. I mean, if you don't want to fund these, that is a choice. I also look at the city's audit report and see quite a healthy cash balance that we've been underfunding infrastructure for a long time, and there's a big section of money that I think our water customers could well deserve. If not, we should look at putting a fire surcharge on our water bills to pay for all the fire hydrants that we need. So, and that will be part of an ongoing discussion with the city throughout the rest of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Mr. Babe.
Just out of curiosity, we're talking about 13 fire hydrants out of 151 that are out of service. I mean, and this is the fire department that has come to us and said these like 13 are critical. I mean, are there 16 that are actually critical and
Yeah.
not giving us enough?
Really good question. I don't know, Ms. Dickinson, would you mind approaching the podium and just speaking about the prioritization process that you went through with Chief Jankla and his staff at the fire department?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I had met with Fire Chief Jankla a few times, and he had, we came up with a list of hydrants that needed for replacement, and then he had passed that on to his battalion chiefs, who were able to access some data that the fire department has for local trends that over the last handful of years where the high volume of fire calls have come in, impacts, again, something like, Southview, high number of residents. What does that fire hydrant look like if it needs to be repaired or replaced? That one doesn't need to be, but high volume neighborhoods. And then also, if there were other fully operable hydrants in the area that were accessible within the length of their hoses, that they could easily navigate any future events, just to name a few things. But also, myself and then some of the staff had looked at aligning future improvements during water capital main projects over the next handful of years as well, and took those out of priorities. So it was, it took a little bit of time, but we tried to do a full analysis of how it would impact my staff, but then, more importantly, fire suppression needs.
And if I could add on to that, Ms. Dickinson brings up a good point that we are replacing, is it 11 hydrants on the Minnesota Street project? I mean, there's a number of already hydrants that are already in the works for replacement with the water projects that we're doing. This is 13 in addition, not directly related to an existing water project. that we are going out to bid for separately, that have been confirmed to not just need to replace the internals, but to be a complete replacement for a variety of reasons. Our survey of, we are completing our hydrant flushing right now, and with that hydrant flushing, noting the equipment, the condition of each hydrant that we flush, which is all of them every year. And the fire department is also doing their leak survey later in the summer. And with that, we will have the list to compare and make sure we have the complete record of the hydrants that need to be replaced.
And the data included in the packet is, right, ever-changing is just because of that. It looks like this would only be an 8% impact to the full scope of if we did replacements of all of the 151 bad order, but with what additional hydrants may be identified that need repairs or maintenance to be added to the list, and then what we take care of in the water main projects, that will change year to year, but we'll continue to assess.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Peterson, for the 56 that still need repair, excuse me, a lot of them can just be leaking and have just small parts that have to be put in. Are you making a list and have a goal by the end of the year that you should have the majority of them complete?
I think there were two questions in your question, Commissioner. Of the 56 remaining that aren't completed yet, we'll be continuing to evaluate the data with our survey results from our flushing, as well as the cities, to make sure there's not more that crop up. And I would be surprised if some drop off, but if they do, that is what it is. And anything that can be replaced this year, just with internals or small fixes, we'll have all the materials on hand so we can replace them ourselves. Just as a round of caution, though, that number of 56 is the number we're targeting right now, and would update that as soon as our flush study is complete.
In the fall time is typically when the repairs and maintenance of the fire hydrants does happen, and we'll ensure that the staff is able to take care of as many of those repairs as possible before freeze up.
Mr. Chairman, and I guess that's my point is, of those, we know there's 56, but maybe there's some that you can do 3, 4 in one day.
Right.
You know, and they're just minor leaking. If you have a leaky one that goes into winter, it's gonna freeze. You know, so you gotta knock those off, and just getting them as many as you possibly can creates safety for everybody that lives in those areas. So I think it's a priority before winter. And it's almost winter. You know, temperature outside doesn't say it, but it's coming. Thank you.
Thank you. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Support?
I'll support.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Commissioner Garrity to approve the plans and specifications in order to advertise for public bid 2023-22 hydrant repair projects. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, we'll move on to item 6H. Approve change order number 2 for the Minnesota Street and 8th Avenue project, water project, in the amount of $36,345. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. I was just confirming with staff to make sure we have the last and final request. Mr. Garrity already alluded to the wet soil issue, and this was something that has come up and resulted in a change of scope, but not a change in budget to the actual project. And I had some conversation with the engineering firm of whether or not this change order was needed, but since it is for additional materials and supplies at the work site, I felt that it was appropriate to bring forward for approval. What happened is there was a section of the roadway that had different density of soil that needed to be remediated. And the cost of this change order are to reroute some of the piping routes and replace the soil in those areas so that we can move forward and have a reliable service. I do not expect at this point the budget to exceed the amount the commission has approved for the water project. And just wanted to make sure everyone aware of that. So while this is an increase of materials and supplies, this should still be within the original budget approved for these projects. So with that in mind, Commission, I would request that we approve a change in the amount of $36,345 for the additional materials and labor to remediate this section road.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
And I'll support that. We have a motion by Commissioner Garrity, support by Chair Hart, to approve change order number 2 for the Minnesota Street project in the amount of $36,345. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we'll move on to item number 6I. Authorized membership interest purchase agreement for Virginia Public Utilities share in the LEA in the amount of $68,222. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. Commissioners and members of the public, in 2005, Hibbing Public Utilities and Virginia Public Utilities entered into the Laurentian Energy Authority by the creation of 2 LLCs for the purposes of both financing and constructing the biomass boiler that we just kind of celebrated yesterday again with members of the staff and regulatory agencies. As a result of that partnership, HPU was able to successfully generate power for a number of years through a power purchase agreement with Xcel Energy, and also received a subsequent buyout of the power purchase agreement from Xcel Energy. That is the basis of our capital investment plan and renewal for both our steam and power plant utilities, and providing necessary capital reserves for ongoing investments in the future, and the future proofing of Hibbing and its surrounding areas. That with the last payment from Xcel Energy that was received in the month of June, Virginia Public Utilities has expressed its interest to not be involved with any of these assets anymore, since they are not in the generation business anymore. We are, however, and with this in mind, Commissioner Hart and Commissioner Garrity and I met with representatives of Virginia Public Utilities over the last year and have set in motion this purchase agreement that we shared with both the Commission at a work session back in November, subsequently delivered a letter of intent at the March Commission meeting on March 2nd, and successfully completed negotiation with Virginia after we did a little dickering about values of trucks and things like that that went into the purchase price for the membership shares. The motion before you is a motion to approve the acquisition of Virginia's shares of Laurentian Energy 1 and Laurentian Energy 2, the 2 initial LLCs, so that HPU will be a whole owner of Laurentian Energy for the purchase price of $683,000, and then balances in the cash account would be split accordingly per the terms of the membership interest purchase agreement, which was shared with all of you in the packet. I've asked also Counsel Andy Borland, Attorney Andy Borland, to prepare a resolution, just because this is a significant activity, just so that we would have the formal authorization for Commission Chair Hart and Commission Vice Chair Garrity to approve this membership interest purchase agreement with Virginia at the stated price. So with that in mind, happy to answer any questions.
Could you just I'm more for, because I've been in the other sessions where we've been discussing this purchase, but just for the ratepayers, just explain why this is beneficial.
That's an excellent question. We would not be back in the biomass business right now if we didn't have those trucks and trailers still under our possession. And while HPU staff is not using them, they still have value, both intrinsically and for purposes of working with other partners to deliver fuel supply for us. So if you recall, at the beginning of our biomass venture just a couple of years ago, many of the loggers in the area sold all their equipment. So there wasn't any local loggers that were able to actually supply us wood chips because when LEA shut the door. So by using this equipment, we were able to jumpstart our current biomass program. And what I just got back from the Coalition of the Bioeconomy, one of these great think tanks that people sit around and talk about all these great energy policy things we have for the future. And, you know, Hibbing is increasingly seen as a leader in that regards. And none of that would be possible but for these assets that we have already existing through the Laurentian Energy Partnership. So it provides us huge flexibility, both with working with logger suppliers and with future providers in the future. We also are renting the real estate that is owned under the partnerships right now and earning a pretty healthy profit. So this will work to self-subsidize it while we continue to optimize and find the best deal for the ratepayers when we do want to dispose of any assets directly from the partnership. So does that answer your question directly?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's a good question.
So, yeah, no, I think this is a good investment to get all the shares of the wood yard. To duplicate that asset would be several times that cost. You'll never have this chance again. And if it doesn't work out, it can always be sold, obviously, so. It's money well spent, in my opinion. So, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to
I'll support.
purchase the LEA shares from Virginia Public Utilities. We have support by Commissioner Garrity. Any further discussion?
I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Garrity and you, Chair Hart, for helping negotiate that, and to you, Luke, and staff. And it's been talked about for a while. It's nice to have it done. So.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. And thank you, Commissioner Bayless. We appreciate that. Next, we got item number 7A, approved job description and internal and external posting for utility engineer position. Mr. Peterson?
Thank you, Chair Hart. If the commission recalls, we have an active job posting out for a utility engineer that's very specific to electrical and controls. We haven't had any applicants over the last 16 months it's been posted. So with that in mind, it was advised that we update the job description to reduce a lot of the specific things in there for controls, and also look to bring in-house a lot of the engineering work, so we at least have one professional engineer on staff at the public utilities. If the commission approves this, we'd expect to start advertising this and bring forward a qualified candidate when we have. That said, I think I'm very happy with our current arrangement with our trusted engineering partners, and look forward to just making sure we have a more general engineering position available if we find the right candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. What will be the wish of the commission?
I had a question, actually. Luke, I'm just curious, just in the job description itself, is there any overlap with union work with this position?
No, there should not be at all.
There's no,
This position would supervise the current engineering technician staff that we have and provide management duties over that work, so
okay.
no.
So the stuff in here about staking devices and all that stuff is kind of just a redundancy in case they,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what an engineer needs to sign off on is the full implementation of this electrical service that goes on there, and construct and consult on the project engineering. So I do not see that as a direct conflict. I don't know, Ms. Dickinson, if you'd like to add any addition to that. So,
thank you.
yeah.
What will be the wish of the commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Support? A motion by Commissioner Garrity, support by Commissioner Babbage. to approve the job description and internal, external posting for the utility engineer position. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask one question? Mr. Peterson, I don't understand. I've never seen a job description with a highlighted line that's in bold print. It says it'll be 5-day work week, and then flexible hours after 6 months. Why does it need to be flexible?
Well, our work is pretty constant. You know, I think what we are trying to do is try to attract the largest amount of people to these positions. And I think you'll find that the requirements for people seeking work are wanting that flexibility. And so when we have a solid, 7 to 3:30 workday, if, as we advertise it as such, that's a turnoff for a lot of the young professional engineers that we might get in here. And so, what I want to just be clear of is obviously we have a responsibility, and our non-exempt staff is here, 7:30 to 3:30, and this is a supervisory job. That will mean, supervising. It also means that some days you might start at 5:30 in the morning, some days you might start at 9, so we want to make sure that as a premier employer in the region that we're providing the new professional employees that hopefully are relocating back to Hibbing, the opportunities that they seek in a modern workforce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Is there any old business for the commission? Nope. Not, we're going to move on to item 9.
Yep. 9A is the HPU Asset Management Program. As part of our IT strategy, will be recommending the HPU move forward with acquiring an asset and implementing an asset management system. In light of the new commissioners that will be joining us next month, I'd like to defer that formal request until we've had a chance to have a work session with the new commissioners on that, just to make sure everyone knows where we're going with that. I've been very successful in negotiating IBM down to 50% of their originally stated price for the Maximo workflow and asset management system, and look forward to aligning everybody on that and answering questions before making a recommendation that hopefully is the cornerstone of our new IT strategy and vision of executing the best-in-class utility asset management for the future. So with that in mind, I just wanted all the staff we've spoken with just to know that that is on the radar. I just want to make sure we have time with the new commission, knowing, since it is a very important decision for the future of the utility, that we can move forward and make sure everyone is aware of the decision and can weigh in appropriately. So with that, that's all I had to say on that matter.
So there's no need for a motion.
No need for a motion. This is more for information.
Thank you. So we only have one item left, moving to closed session.
Excuse me, Chair. Did you want to bring up the calendar with respect to the matters, Luke?
A good point, Andy, thank you. I struck from the consent agenda item 5I, and that was to approve the work session rescheduled to August 2nd. It turns out that the commission and the city are having problems finding the same date that everybody can meet because there's a band concert on August 2nd that the city council wasn't, Greg Przinski and I weren't aware of at the same time, and a new commissioner that we have is also a director of the city band at 6 o'clock that day. So there is a push to get the whole commission and the whole city council to the city birthday party on August 2nd. So I would encourage all commissioners to attend that event. However, I'm not recommending we have a work session that day and an infrastructure tour. That infrastructure tour would likely be deferred to September. And then, so we would resume our normal schedule. So the second Tuesday of August, that August 8th, if that still works, we would hold our normal meeting, our normal working session, and we can address the reschedule of the August 22nd meeting at that point.
Okay.
Chair, with regard to the last issue then on your agenda, as it notes, there is a matter to go into closed session to discuss a letter that the commission received with regard to public bid 2023-19. Because of the nature of the letter and because of the issue that comes up under Minnesota Statute 13D.03 subdivision 1B, you can go into closed session to discuss under attorney-client privilege, because there's clearly a nature of a threat of a potential litigation with respect to that letter. There's always the benefit between having an open discussion for the public to see versus strategy that you might get from your attorney otherwise. And so it's my recommendation that you do make a motion to go into closed session, discuss that specific letter, as well as a follow-up letter that we received from that attorney on behalf of one of the people involved in that particular public bid. So that's my recommendation, that you go into closed session at this time. And there is the potential that you may come back into open session based on what happened tonight, even based on what happens in the closed session. You may not, but so I think you could still then adjourn your meeting after the fact. It just maybe not be telecast to that effect. Or if you need to take action, you would. I'll leave it up to Ron whether he wants to stay for that or not. It depends on what the commission does in closed session or wants to do as to whether or not we take any action based on the letter this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Before making a motion to go into closed session, I just want to not let the opportunity to pass to thank Commissioner Garrity and Commissioner Andrea. I know that this is the last commission meeting that you'll be here for in this session. I just want to thank you for the time you've put in. You've been extremely valuable to the city of Hibbing and Hibbing Public Utilities. Just want you to know that we appreciate you.
No, it's been an honor to be down here and to do work for the public. But I guess the fact that we were able to negotiate with MP&L and eliminate our full requirements contract so that Hibbing now can produce renewable energy and be able to sell it on the open market, get on the grid, and that has the potential of saving money, and it also has the ability to save the steam system. You get the figures straightened out as to the proper distribution. So it has been a very productive period of time, and I'm very satisfied with it. And thank everybody for their cooperation. And hopefully everything will work. And I'd reevaluate the water contract engineer, but that's not my choice anymore. That's boom.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Motion to move to closed session.
I'll support that. Motion by Commissioner Bayless, support by Chair Hart. Move into closed session. All's in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.